A track called Awkward here on Kiwi. 26 minutes past 9. Rightio, we're off to Game Junkie Gerard Campbell at stuff.co.nz. Get it out. Good morning to you, Gerard.
Good morning, Glenn. Did you forget who I was there for a second?
I did, just for a second. Even though we've been talking for years about the subject matter of games. Your name slipped my mind.
Good.
We're talking about Prototype 2 today. On what platform?
It is on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, I believe. Not sure about PC, but I'm certainly playing on Xbox 360 at this stage.
Now, the name hints that it's obviously the second in a series. Am I right, Gerard?
Well done. Gold star for you.
Thank you very
much.
much.
Gold star for you.
Thank you.
It is. The first game, obviously Prototype, the original Prototype, was an open world sandbox game which came out similar time to Infamous, which was on the PlayStation.
Now, an open world sandbox means what? Wander around a world. It's pretty much open, interact.
Pretty much you can wander around and you can do missions when you want, and you can sort of wander around the city.
Yep.
The original Prototype took place in Manhattan and New York, and it involved a chap called Alex Mercer who was infected by a virus, which, long story short, he had to try and eradicate because it was turning people into mutant-type creatures, and it was sort of a government biotechnology plot. And this virus gave him extreme powers, like he could consume people and assume their forms, and he could also transform himself into have things like blades, his arms transformed into blades and giant fists and those sorts of things. And so his plot was that he wanted to try and get rid of this virus.
Yeah.
Now, Prototype 2 takes place we have a new main character. His name is James Heller. And the game opens with he's in a sort of an army special forces chap who's actually hunting Mercer because he blames Mercer for the death of his wife and daughter and the big virus outbreak.
Right.
And now Heller, who gets infected by the virus after having a confrontation with Mercer, is now his job to try and stop the virus, which has infected New York, which is now called New York Zero, and it's been sort of broken up into 3 zones, depending on the severity of the virus.
Yes.
And the game essentially involves Mercer has to take out and consume key scientists, key military personnel that are all involved in this plot with the virus. And without giving too much away, it works out that Mercer, instead of actually trying to have eradicated the virus, actually spread it.
Well, if you go around consuming people, then you're bound to spread all kinds of things, aren't you?
Well, I think so. If you don't take any sort of protection, you're bound to cause all sorts of problems. But so what Prototype 2 is that it sort of builds on the open world things of the first game, and it's sort of more, and it's a really strong action game. It's a lot of violence. It's an R18 rating, so a lot of violence. A lot of language, a lot of the old F-bomb dropped, even by pedestrians.
Crikey.
As you wander the streets. Crikey, F-bomb.
Yeah.
Close your ears. But, Heller has some sort of new moves now. He's able to extend these tendrils from his arms a little bit further, so you can actually, say for things, if he's under attack by a helicopter, he can actually lock onto a helicopter and pull it out of the sky and that sort of thing. And it's just, it's one of those games that you can actually have a bit of fun with it. You can switch your brain off and actually just have a good bit of fun.
Yeah. Is the story not too compelling?
Well, no, I mean the stories are based. It's that usual story of angry man after somebody who thinks who killed his family. He's got to uncover the plot.
Right.
He has to sort of get to the bottom of it. But it's a strong enough story that sort of carries it through. But I think it's the action that's going to carry this one through. The fact that Heller can consume basically anybody he sees.
Yeah.
So he could consume a pedestrian, a military soldier, a scientist, and of course he has to take on the infected mutants at the same time, which have been let run amok in some zones around the city.
So it being an open world game, do you find yourself getting distracted away from the task at hand?
Well, I mean, you can't go into buildings and you can't do sorts of bits and pieces. But
okay.
Essentially with the open world for this one, it means that if Hal is given 2 missions by some of the people that he's sort of joined up with who are giving help, if he's given 2 missions appear on the map, you can decide what order you want to do those. So if you want to just do mission A, and there's lots of sort of branching side missions too, where you sort of there are certain military personnel, key personnel, that they'll have a yellow icon which will pop above their head, and if it looks like a DNA symbol, that means that if Hela consumes them, and when he consumes them, he sort of takes their own identity and their thoughts and those sorts of things, that there's sort of branching side missions from there to sort of stop deliveries of this or whatever. So in this fact, there's no, it's not sort of telling you must do mission 1 now, you must do mission 2 now. You can sort of do the missions in, and they all ultimately lead to the same end plot, but you can sort of decide which order you want to do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sort of gives a bit of freedom, and they've tweaked the gameplay mechanics a wee bit from the first one, so a lot of the combat is a lot tighter. Hela can now dodge big attacks from big foes and that sort of thing, which sort of makes things a wee bit easier, and he can pull cannons off tanks, and every time he consumes one of the mutated creatures, that sort of can upgrade his power, so he can become faster, or he can avoid detection quicker, or he can throw things further or jump higher. So it's a good development, as all sequels should be. It's a good development of the first one, which is good, which is you ask for.
Prototype 2 is the name of the game. Gerard Campbell has been our reviewer today, and you'll find his blog up at stuff.co.nz in the technology section. Game Junkie NZ on Twitter as well. Also Google Game Junkie 2.0 for the personal blog. Thanks very much, Gerard.
Not a problem. Thanks, Glenn.
9:33. Here is the disc.